This is the next video in the Historic Ordnance series. Now, you may be looking at the picture right now and you're saying, security guy, you already covered this. This is a Russian PMN-1 anti-personnel mine. Well, I'm going to use this training aid for this video because the item I am going to show you looks almost the exact same as this. What I'm covering is this. This is a Soviet, later Russian, because they are still employing this, MS-3 booby trap device. This is an anti-lift device or pressure release booby trap device. Now I will show you the PMN-1 next to the MS-3. Give you a few seconds here. Looking at the two, can you spot how to tell them apart? I'll give you a few seconds. The only way to tell these two apart is the little nipple here. That is where the plunger is. There is no pressure plate on this like there is on the PMN. When the Soviets designed this, they designed it to look exactly like a PMN-1. So if a deminer came up, found this being employed, it would trick the deminer thinking, well, it's just an anti-personnel mine, it's pressure activated, I'm okay, I'll move this stuff out of the way so I can get to the mine. Well, when you remove that item from the top of the MS-3, the plunger goes up and the booby trap device activates. Now, a little bit on the technicals on it. It is pretty much the exact same as a PMN-1. Its height is 2 inches. Its diameter is 4 1/3 inches. Weight is 24.4 ounces, of which 12 ounces is an explosive filler of TNT. I do not have the year that this was entered service, and I do not have a list of copies that have been done by other countries. This does use the same MD9 detonator. The temperature range on the MS-3 is the same as on the PMN-1. It is -40 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Packaging, from what I could come across, is going to be the same, 20 or 25 per crate, with the MD9s packaged separately. Now, this particular device was designed primarily for booby trapping the OZM-72 bounding fragmentation mine. The diameter of the MS-3 is the exact same as the OZM-72. So when you want to booby trap the OZM-72, you dig the same diameter hole, just dig it a little bit deeper. You'd put this down in the bottom, and then you would put the mine over the top, and you would finish the arming process on the booby trap device. Get that buried in there, and then stabilize the mine as much as possible, and then you'll finish the arming process on the mine. Now, this has a nickname, is referred to as Mine Surprise. I do not have the words in Russian, but translated, that's the nickname that they have for it. Now, the arming procedures on this is going to be pretty much the same as on a PMN. So first off, you get your crate, you pull the booby trap device out, you're going to inspect it. You're going to make sure that there's no major damages to the bake-like casing that would cause moisture to get inside and damage the internal components. You also check the rubberized cap over the top. You also check to make sure that the plunger is obviously still there. You're going to go over to the detonator well, open it up, and you're going to look inside, make sure there's no debris. Make sure you can see the firing pin is on the other side of the plunger. Now, before I get too far into it, what should you be seeing when you look inside? You should be seeing this. Now, what we have here is the plunger, and here's the firing pin. This is what it looks like on an MS-3. Down at the bottom is where you will see the wider cutout, and then a narrower cutout of that. When you're looking inside inspecting, the firing pin should be inside this narrow cutout. This is the reverse of the PMN1, where the wider cutout is on top, the narrower on the bottom, and when you look inside the detonator well, the firing pin should be inside the narrow cutout down here. After you've checked that, you go over to the other side, and this is an extremely important step. You will look in here between the little jaws, and you will make sure that that metal bar is still in place and the little lead shear wire is still in position. That tells you that this thing can be armed and it'll be okay. You should also have the safety pin going through here. If there is no safety pin going through here, do not use it. Everything passes inspection. Put the transport cap back on top. You'll then transport it to where you're going to use it. When you're going to emplace it, you're going to have the item that you are going to booby trap. You're going to pull out your MS-3, open it up, remove the transport plug from, or the cap from the detonator well, and you're going to insert the MD9, this piece, into there with the primer facing to the inside towards the firing pin. You can clearly see on the picture here that the primer is pretty prominent on the one side. You then close this up. Dig your holes as you needed for the depth that you need. You will then put this inside the hole. At that point, you're going to put the object over the top of it to depress that plunger. So in this case, we're going to be booby trapping a TM62 Papa 3. As you see, we're going to have this just enough that we're still going to be able to get at the safety clip or the safety pin. Now we will go through, if it's an anti-tank mine, we're going to arm the mine. Then we will come over to the side here, down into the hole, grab that safety ring and pin, and we're going to pull it out. Then we're going to backfill that hole, camouflage that that's underneath the mine to prevent its removal. It's an anti-handling device. Now, according to the literature I could find, the pressure required to keep the plunger down in the armed position, the safe position, is at least 9 pounds. So, from what I've heard, the Soviet manual actually had a list in there of the type of equipment that you could not booby trap with this, and it also had a list of equipment that you could and recommendations on how to booby trap that stuff using the MS-3. Now, D-miner comes in, he's going through, he does his checks. Oh shit, there's an anti-personnel mine here. Maybe that's just there in case someone steps on the anti-tank mine, doesn't set it off, you know, and foot pressure as someone stepping on this will set this off and set the whole mine off. Well, I should be good to go through, disarm the mine, and then I'll take care of the one underneath. Grabs it, picks it up, and then it's click, kaboom. Now, the information I found is the plunger right here, the nipple only has to go back up about 2 to 3 millimeters. So as little as 1/8 of an inch of movement upward of the weight over the top will set this off. And this explosive charge in here is more than large enough to set off an anti-tank mine if you have that's what's sitting over the top. If you have this booby trapping an IED, you move the IED just a little bit, it'll go off and set off the IED. If you have it booby trapping a stack of munitions crates, well, when you move that crate directly over the device, it'll go off and it'll set off that case of ammunition, that case of explosives. It does not take much. Now, removal on this. There is none. There is absolutely nothing you can do to disarm an MS-3 and reuse it. It must be destroyed in place with whatever piece of ordnance was sitting over the top of it. Easiest way you could do that, tie a rope onto the object that's over the top. You know, make sure everyone is out of the way. They're under cover. Give that rope a tug. Let the booby trap go off and set off the piece of ordnance that's sitting over the top of it. So if you are going through, you're on a demining effort, and you come across something with what looks like a PMN underneath, you just found an MS-3 booby trap device. Now, from what I have seen in Ukraine, from footage from Ukraine, from deminers there and engineers there, they do use these a lot to booby trap TM62 series anti-tank mines because of the weight. I have also seen them being employed by the Ukrainians. This was before the 2022 invasion. Being employed by the Ukrainians in the Donbass against the Russian citizens and Russian militias in the Donbass. There was one video I watched. It showed the Ukrainian engineer, middle of the road, digging out a small hole. Well, he first digs out a little trench the size of a 122 millimeter artillery projectile. He then digs out on one end a small hole for what I thought was a PMN-1. I did not know the MS-3 existed at that time. He puts the MS-3 down in there, puts the artillery projectile over the top, which is set up to be an IED. He arms the MS-3, camouflages that, goes through, he arms the artillery projectile, does a real crappy job of camouflaging it, and then he walks away. So what was meant to happen is someone either inadvertently sets off that IED, which I think it was set up for pressure activation. It's been a while since I've seen that video. And if someone doesn't set off the IED, they find it, they call back to the militia or the Russian military to take care of it. They come forward, they say, oh, here's an IED, it's partially planted, you know, everything looks fine. They go in, remove the IED, and the booby trap goes off underneath. The projectile then goes off and kills the entire demining crew. So, when you're going through checking Russian mines, you come across what looks like a PMN-1 underneath. It's a booby trap. You got to destroy it in place. That's the only option you have. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essayons.